Chapter 1: The Beginning of Shadows. Before Sauron became the embodiment of darkness, his name was once revered as a symbol of great wisdom and power. In the earliest days of Middle-earth, before the world was torn apart by war and betrayal, Sauron was known as Mairon, a being of unparalleled intellect and beauty. He was a Maia, one of the Lesser Ainur, sent into the world by the Valar to guide and protect it. But as time passed, something within Mairon began to shift. There was an ache deep within him, a thirst for something greater, something that he could not define but knew he lacked. It was this emptiness that made him vulnerable. His longing for order, control, and perfection became a silent storm that brewed within him, unnoticed by those around him. Even in the early days of his existence, Mairon had begun to question the world's inherent chaos. The world was beautiful, but it was fragile, too fragile for his liking. And he believed that if only he could shape it to his will, if only he could make the world more perfect, he could rid it of the uncertainty and pain that always lurked beneath its surface. The turning point came when he encountered Morgoth, the first Dark Lord. Morgoth's power was undeniable, and in him, Mairon saw not just a master, but a reflection of his own desires, an understanding of how to reshape the world, how to bind the forces of nature to one's will. Morgoth promised Mairon something that none of the Valar had ever offered, the chance to truly dominate. With that promise, Mairon was lost. In his mind, the Valar had failed the world by allowing it to be unsteady and imperfect. Morgoth was offering him a path toward a world of certainty, a world where he could finally control the chaos that gnawed at him. He eagerly took Morgoth's side, and in doing so began to slip away from the being he once was. Chapter 2: The Price of Ambition. The days under Morgoth's rule were filled with dark pleasures and unimaginable power. Mairon, now Sauron, quickly rose to prominence. His mind was sharper than ever, and he could see through the illusions of lesser beings. He became Morgoth's most trusted lieutenant, his right hand, the one who crafted armies of nightmarish creatures and devised strategies that would bring entire civilizations to their knees. But power, as Sauron soon realized, was never enough. It was always fleeting. The more he manipulated, the more he controlled, the more he desired. It wasn't long before he began to feel that Morgoth himself was weak, his obsession with destruction blind and foolish. Sauron began to see that Morgoth's true downfall was that he sought chaos for chaos's sake. Sauron desired something more, a lasting order, a rule that would outlast even Morgoth's destruction. As Sauron worked by Morgoth's side, his soul began to wither. He could not see it at first, the subtle shift within him, the deepening darkness that clung to his every thought. But it was there, festering beneath the surface. He was no longer the being of wisdom and beauty he had once been. His heart had been poisoned by his own ambition. Morgoth fell. In the end, the Valar defeated him, but they did not defeat Sauron. His defeat only fueled his drive. He retreated into the shadows of the world, taking refuge in the forgotten corners of Middle-earth, where he could rebuild his strength, where he could plot his next move. But there was no joy in his heart, only a hollow ache that could never be filled. His desire for control had consumed him entirely. Chapter 3: The Forging of the One Ring. Sauron's defeat at the hands of the Valar had left him weakened but not broken. His ambition remained as strong as ever, and in his isolation, he began to craft his greatest creation, the One Ring. It was a weapon unlike any other, forged in the fires of Mount Doom, a tool of unimaginable power that would give him control over all of Middle-earth. It would allow him to dominate the minds of the free peoples, to bend their wills to his own, to forge a world of perfect order where no chaos could exist. But there was more to the ring than mere power. As Sauron worked, he poured more of himself into it, his fear, his hatred, his longing for control. The ring became an extension of his very soul, and in its creation, Sauron was not simply seeking to rule. He was seeking to bind the world to him, to make it impossible for him to ever be challenged again. He poured every ounce of his fear into it, his greatest fear, the fear of losing control, of losing his identity. But in his obsession with control, he made a fatal miscalculation. He underestimated the resilience of those who would oppose him. He thought the ring would make him unstoppable, that no force could stand against him. But he could not see the spark of defiance in the hearts of the free peoples, nor the deep love and loyalty they held for one another. These were things he could not control. Chapter 4. The Fall of the Dark Lord. Sauron's lust for power led him to wage war against the free peoples of Middle-earth. His forces swept across the land, darkening everything in their path. He thought he could crush them all, that the One Ring would give him dominion over all. But with each passing day, the shadows he cast grew thinner, his hold over Middle-earth weakening as the free peoples united against him. It was in this time of greatest peril that the last flickers of Sauron's humanity began to stir. He saw, for the first time in his existence, the true meaning of loss. The men and elves who opposed him did not fear him as he had feared others. They fought not just for their own survival, but for their families, for their homes, for the future. Sauron had never known such love. He had never understood that to rule was not simply to control, but to care for those who followed you. His grip on the world loosened, and in his desperation, he used the One Ring to exert his full power. But the more he used it, the more he lost himself. In the end, it was not his enemies who brought him down, but his own unrelenting fear and pride. He could not bear to see his carefully constructed world unravel, so he clung to the ring with all his might, even as it turned against him. It was not the defeat of his armies that shattered him. It was the realization that he had, in his quest for power, lost everything that truly mattered. Chapter 5. The Eye and the Legacy. Sauron's physical form was destroyed, but his spirit lived on, bound to the One Ring. The world, scarred by his reign, slowly began to heal, but Sauron's shadow never truly vanished. His spirit lingered, twisted and consumed by the very fear that had driven him. And though the ring was lost, the scars of his reign remained in the hearts of those who had witnessed it, in the stories passed down through the generations. But what of Sauron himself? Was he nothing more than a cautionary tale of ambition gone wrong? Or was he a being who had once sought to bring order to a world full of chaos, only to be destroyed by his own inability to understand the nature of true power? As the eye of Sauron burned brightly in the darkness once more, it was clear that his legacy would never be so easily forgotten. The darkness he had left behind would always be felt, lingering in the hearts of those who had once been consumed by it. And in the quiet corners of Middle-earth, there would always be those who wondered, what if Sauron was more than just the embodiment of evil? What if, deep within the heart of the Dark Lord, there had been a glimmer of something more? Something lost, something tragic, something that might have been saved. But perhaps some questions are better left unanswered. Perhaps the true story of Sauron's fall is one that should remain buried. An untold tale of a heart once full of potential, now lost to the shadow forever.